7:14. Don't forget Indulgence on 62 in River Rock Inn is serving all the steak and shrimp you can eat this Friday night, July 10th. Call them at 425-5544 for details. And welcome to our Sheriff, John Montgomery, sir.
And good morning. And by the way, I actually saw the sun briefly this morning coming in.
Well, yeah, briefly.
Yep, stand by.
Stand by for Friday.
It will rain again.
So how you been?
I'm doing great. Everything's been good. We had a very much quieter 4th than normal, which is great. We're happy for that. Overall, our number of calls were down. No major incidents. Arrests were down a little. And so, again, it seems like everybody had a good time. I was out actually on the lake Saturday. It's the busiest I've seen that lake in a long time.
Good.
It was lots and lots of boats.
But everything was safe? No incidences?
No major incidents.
Okay, so my question is, we've just got through the Red, White, and Blue Festival around the 27th, 28th. Fireworks at Bull Shoals, flipping, one event in Mountain Home, one at the lake. You don't have a lot of people, and you've got a big county to cover. So, I guess what I'm saying is, how thin do you put the icing on the cake, trying to cover everything? You've got more people in town with the visitors, in the county, I should say. Fireworks out by stage. You had fireworks on the 3rd out at the lake. And that's a doozy out there. And you've got the parking down to the point where, you can park and leave within the same day on the calendar.
Well, the firework, we assist other agencies. Mountain Home, we assist Mountain Home Police with the red, white, and blue because ASU is in Mountain Home. And we assist Marion County with the one at Bull Shoals.
Okay.
But the fireworks on Lake Norfolk by far is our biggest event of the year. And so we call in, lots of reserves, and a lot of the deputies know that they're going to have to work. It's a big event, but we've got it down now so that it's, of course, they've been doing this for years. And so we've just basically tweaked what they've been doing. And since they opened up the 5-lane, it has made a huge difference out there. We actually block off one lane, and if you come off of 101 to 62, you have to turn right. By doing that, we don't have to stop any traffic. And so 2 years ago, we had everybody out within an hour. And it used to be 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
It used to be about 1 in the morning when we finally got the last car out of that fireworks display.
Now, do you allow people to park on the bridges?
62. Yes, there are lots of people park on the bridges and on both sides, and they walk down to the bridge on both sides. Henderson.
They actually are on the bridge?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was allowed or not.
The highway department has not shut that down. So there are thousands of cars, and there was more boats this year on the lake watching the fireworks than I remember in a while. But 2 years ago, we had the traffic dispelled in an hour. Last year was 50 minutes. And this year was 42 minutes. We were done. We closed everything down. Now, in all fairness, there actually did not appear to be as many cars this year. But I really attribute that to so much stuff's underwater. It was harder to find a place to park.
Okay. Wow.
But there was more boats.
What if that means more visitors to the area?
Like I said, all I know Saturday, the lake was busy.
Really? Move over some out there.
Again, just out with friends, but from Fout Boat Dock to Cranfield to, people parked all over hillsides. Boats everywhere on the water. So that's good. Love it.
I don't want you to give away any trade secrets, but, you still have Big Flat in the northern part of the county and, east and west of the city to handle. How do you coordinate stuff so well and get things so organized? But what if you had an incident in Big Flat or Norfolk that had to be handled, and you've got all this going on?
Well, you basically don't put all your eggs in one basket, and by that we don't take every deputy we have. We zone out the county, so each deputy is responsible for a particular area, so that doesn't change.
But then the organization of the event on the part of the sheriff's office and any other PD apparently has been so well done that
I've got to give credit. Actually, Lieutenant Ralph Byrd, for the last several years, has taken that organization and organized everything and put it together, and he's got it down like clockwork. He knows who's at what intersection. So you immediately know who to pick up the radio and call, and if there's an issue, we have the Corps of Engineers pays our deputies to patrol the parks through the summer, and so we've still got those deputies in those parks, which are scattered around. You've still got the deputies that are working that's out, so that doesn't change, but we still have to bring in a lot of extra folks in order to handle the sheer number of folks that on that fireworks display. And again, it's gone very smoothly. There's a lot of things that we do, and again, prevention's hard to measure. When it doesn't happen, it's hard to say.
Yeah, that's true.
You prevented it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that vaccine. How many illnesses did you prevent by getting the vaccine? Well, you'll never know. But in this case, we think a couple things. One, we have a bigger presence. We work with the Game and Fish. We work with the Corps of Engineers. They've got boats on the water. We've got, of course, lots of deputies that not only patrol on the bridge and those parks areas. We've got some deputies on foot that's walking the bridge in that area. We have the helicopter in the air that we are monitoring, and when there is an incident, we even keep a rescue diver in the helicopter before and after.
During one of the campaigns, you come under some criticism about having the helicopter, and my thought on this is, you're the sheriff. You say you need it. I'm going to support that. And I think that's probably one of the most vital tools you've got. Think about what you just said. You've got a diver ready in that chopper. So if there's a child that falls off the boat at night, he comes down, you've got your diver in there, and you don't have to wait.
All right. We train, but those divers are trained to actually deploy from the helicopter. And so, and we went through some specialized training. The helicopter, of course, has been around for 30 some years up here at the sheriff's office. Actually, Baxter County had the first law enforcement helicopter in the entire state of Arkansas, way before the state police. And so these are Army surplus. The only thing that you have to pay when you get one is basically what they call a transfer fee. In this case, our annual budget for our helicopter is $15,000 a year. And yes, Dale, I said 15,000.
How do you do it on that?
And I
remember that.
And we've only had 1 year since I've been sheriff that we've gone over budget in that line item. And there were some reasons, we don't do a lot of patrolling in the helicopter. It's more of a reaction. So when it's needed, it's called out.
I know what it was. It's when the car, I got tickled thinking about the flying car hitting your helicopters.
Yes, we had a car fly through the air and hit one of our, I call it our parts helicopter.
Yeah, one of the parts.
We had 2 parts helicopters that we had picked up, and so, it flew through the air and hit those, but we settled with the insurance company, the county did, and the money sitting in the county coffers, if you will, and so. But
that helicopter, to me, it's the hammer in the carpenter's hand. It's something. This is not Faulkner County or White County or let's say Randolph County, to where, you've got a huge lake and, you get somebody breaks out of the prison down here at Calico. They get up here in these woods, these mountains. You've got to have something. And I think you've assisted in child searches and everything else in other counties.
Yeah, we do assist other counties. And we have spotted several drowning victims in rivers and other counties. Oh yeah, and you can actually see, depending on the clearness of the river, you can actually see and cover a lot more territory in the helicopter than you can, say by boat or on foot. And I get asked sometimes, do we charge them to use our helicopter? And the answer is no. We can't legally, because that's part of the deal when we get the Army surplus. In most cases, they'll reimburse us for fuel. So, but again, $15,000. That's our annual budget.
That's great.
And that includes insurance. That includes maintenance. That includes fuel. That's everything. The mechanic, the whole works.
It shows wise use. Use it when you need it, and
Yeah, and we do.
I think it's vital to the county.
There's a few events that will go. Big Flat Homecoming, the fireworks in Lake Norfolk. There's a few events that we will take it out. On what I call preventive type flights, but typically it's only used when it's needed. Now, sometimes there's been years where seems like we use it all the time, and other years where it's not as
about
often.
3 or 4 years ago, there was somebody got lost after the fireworks. Something happened, and it was airborne and used the big light to help track something. What was that?
We had a situation. Actually, I think the incident you were talking to about, and I want to say 4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
They was after the fireworks go off, and we always lift up. You know, when the fireworks are over, we lift off, and we're watching. We're actually directing traffic from the air because you can see all the different intersections. But we're also monitoring boat traffic, and so anyone that's driving too fast, we believe, we can hit them with that big spotlight, and it slows them down.
Yeah.
But in that particular case, I think what you're referring to, we actually spotted a pontoon boat, again, after the fireworks, traveling south on the lake, not too far from the bridge, running with no lights, pulling a tube that had kids hanging onto the tube being pulled behind the pontoon boat. And we spotted it with the spotlight and got down low enough that they stopped. And when we stayed there until Game and Fish Officer could come over and take care of the problem.
Yeah.
But you think about it.
But how many lives could that have saved that night?
Goodness.
The kids on a tube and no lights?
I mean,
Come on, you're pushing midnight, right?
no, hell no. In that
11
case,
o'clock?
yeah. Well, 4 or 5 years ago, it probably was more like 10:30, 11 o'clock. I don't remember, but again, it was an extremely dangerous situation. Certainly not smart on the boat operator's part. But again, if one of the kids had fallen off, they'd never known it anyway. And by the time they did, and got stopped and tried to find them. So those are things that we've used. We've also had a medical emergency. And I think this was three years ago. They had a medical emergency, and we needed an ambulance to get down the road. Well, think about it, bumper to bumper traffic.
Oh.
So what we were actually able to do is stop the traffic, and from the air could get the ambulance. In other words, because we could see what traffic was stopped and could coordinate so that ambulance could actually drive, if you will, on the wrong side of the road to get.
So you were coordinating with radio?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
To get that ambulance through there, much quicker than if they'd have been trying to do it on their own. So
you look at, you say $15,000 a year in operating budget for that helicopter. The lives and money saved by using it, unbelievable. But like you say, it's preventive, and you'll never know exactly what you've prevented. But I think it's a vital tool for the county.
Well, I think it's been a good tool, and and so I get occasionally somebody will call in a question. I don't get that many negative comments, but I encourage anybody that's got questions, call, or if you want to see budgets and what we spend on, come by. I'll be happy to show you. In fact, all the budgets are online anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know if you knew that or not, but on the Baxter County website, the county website, not the sheriff's website, you can go look at budgets and how much each budget is and all that. So,
that was the transparency thing through the last campaign, I think.
Yeah, Judge Pendergrass has done a good job kind of coordinating getting that up and running, and I think it's been great. The transparency, I've said this before, transparency, I believe, is the greatest form of public trust.
Well, yeah. I mean, how many times have you been on this program and say, "Hey, you have a question? Call me, stop by, or whatever." I think you're doing a fine job. Down about the last minute before we go to break. What do you need to tell the folks listening out there today?
Let's see. Before the break, or
before the break.
Before the break. Before the break.
Short one. I got a minute left.
Before the break. Let's see. We'll talk about. I tell you what. We'll talk about when we come back.
Okay.
We'll talk about preventing crime. How you can do that. Don't volunteer to be a victim.
Okay.
And talk about a little bit about the jail and prison overcrowding.
Oh boy, that's still going on, isn't it?
No, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
The Knights of Columbus are having a brat sale on July 17th and 18th from 10 to 3. Brats will be $3. They're going to have 2 brats for $5. Hot dogs $1.50. I love the Knights of Columbus do some great work. Let me tell you. Soft drink water for $1. For assorted snacks 50 cents, and all proceeds help local charities. Come on out and support the Knights of Columbus next weekend, July 17th and 18th. I'm still down to 23 seconds.
Where at?
It's going to be at the Old Harps parking lot.
The Old Harps parking lot.
Right down here.
Yes.
Right down the road.
Okay, that's where I thought it was. I want to be sure.
And appreciate what the Knights of Columbus do.
Yep. Hey, I don't know if you've had any of those brats, but they're very good.
They're very good brats, yeah. Every so often I think, oh, Dad, I'll forget about it, though. Talk about it on the radio, then I forget about it.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, we've got the news for you and other good things, as I always say. We'll be right back with the sheriff right after this. 7:35, continuing our discussion with the sheriff. Well, on the front page of the paper today, I see where the Quorum Court is allowing a nurse.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
County judge was here yesterday and told us what was on part of the agenda.
Yeah, the Quorum Court approved the hiring of a nurse for us, and so we'll actually start advertising that probably today. We're looking for an LPN, and I guess if anybody's listening or knows of someone, we'll be taking applications. The requirements, they have to have at least 10 years experience or 3 years in a correctional type facility experience. So either or. Minimum, and they can certainly they can go online to our website to pick up an application, drop it off with a resume, or send it in, and we'll be taking applications again. I haven't set a deadline yet, but we'll be working on that today. It will be a help. It's not going to solve every issue, but we.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is one of my pet peeves with how the law is written. A lot of people don't know that. For instance, if later today I was arrested, taken down to Baxter County Jail, and Sheriff, I've got pneumonia, I got to go to the hospital. My insurance is null and void, and you got to pay for it.
Well, it's not that your insurance is null and void. The insurance would cover, but very few people that come to my jail have insurance. They'll have Medicaid sometimes. We do have situations, not often, but where they'll be under Medicare. We have some that will be under VA benefits. But any government type insurance, the moment you're incarcerated, stops.
And you got to pay for it.
And the county has to pay for it.
No.
So we pay for your prescriptions. We pay for your medical treatment. We pay if you have to be taken to the doctor, dentist, emergency room. We not only have to take you, but we have to pay for it.
Who's the brilliant one to come up with that one? that don't make sense.
Well, that's the way it is.
Now,
and
how's the nurse going to help that? Will that help defray some of those expenses, I hope?
Well, again, it's one of those prevention things that we'll have to actually see. But based on a couple things. Number one, currently we have a nurse practitioner that works part-time. Comes in every so often to see the inmates. So you've got all this gap in between times. And so if you've got an issue, a lot of times I'll have to be taken to the emergency room because there's no other way to have them seen or treated. In this case, you'll have a nurse on staff that can assess the situation, be in contact with the doctor or the nurse practitioner, and then determinations can be made for treatment. Some of the inmates just really want to be seen. If they can be seen by the nurse, to look at whatever the
scab on my arm.
Right, exactly. And then you also have, the medications is being dispensed, having that nurse dispense those instead of our jail staff, will just improve things drastically. So we think it will save medical expenses, but right now, I don't want to put a dollar figure to it because we're just in this, we're just getting here, so to speak. But there's no question it's going to help us out. In fact, in 2013, the jail review board that comes in and inspects and reviews jail wrote in there they strongly recommended the hiring. The words they used were strongly recommend.
That's just underneath an order, right?
Well, we had a discussion, and I asked them not to make that an order because at that time we had no way to pay for it.
Right.
And the way we're paying for this, by the way, I think is kind of neat in a way. We got a state law passed that all commissary profits. So if it's inmates in jail, of course, we're not the Holiday Inn. We serve beans and cornbread virtually 365 days a year, but they can purchase different things, snacks and so on and so forth, if they want to pay for it. The profit now by state law comes back to the sheriff's office.
Good.
And so we're going to use those profits to pay for the nurse. So the inmates are actually going to pay for that position.
Now we come to overcrowding. This has been an issue through how many campaigns, though?
Well, and I will probably step on some toes, but back in 2011, the legislature passed what was called Act 570. It was called the Prison Reform Bill. And basically and that was because we were having an overcrowding issues. And as I remember, the amount of inmates in the county jails backed up waiting to go to prison was in the neighborhood of 13 to 1,500. Okay. And so they passed Act 570 because they had to get some relief, got to get these folks, we got to free up prison space because they didn't want to build another prison. So they passed Act 570, which basically reduced the penalty of every drug offense, basically reduced the penalty for most theft offenses, and I think those two shouldn't have been done at the same time. Then they made it much more difficult to go to prison. So in other words, they inserted certain grids in place that encouraged probation and parole rather than prison, but then tied the hands to some extent of the parole officers about keeping folks in prison. In other words, so they're automatically going to get parole. But they didn't hire any more parole or probation officers. So now all of a sudden you've got all these extra folks on parole and probation. You've got some of the parole and probation officers that's got 130 to 150 clients apiece that you're trying to supervise every month. And again, it sounded like a great deal. And I was very vocal down there saying this is maybe a short-term fix, but you're going to make the problem even worse, because if you don't monitor and watch the folks and keep the folks locked up that need to be locked up, we're going to make it worse. Well, there were several of us that, if you will, screamed and hollered, but it passed. And it did what it was intended to do, because within a year and a half to 2 years, the amount of people backed up in the county jails dropped to around 200 or 300. Now it's up to 2,800.
What went wrong?
They didn't hire more probation and parole officers. So it increased it. The folks that are out on parole and probation are not being watched and monitored like they should. And because of that, the folks out there, the criminals out here, and I'm talking about the repeat offenders, know they're not going to prison. So there's no incentive for them, to not break the law. And so it's just become a vicious cycle. So certainly it emptied the prison for a short period of time, but the cycle caught up, and now we're sitting here with a problem. And again, people don't want to build a prison. And, and again, I'm going to step on a few toes. They're talking about, education, rehab, and I think those are great things for those, what I call first-time or early offenders. But when you've got somebody that's gone to prison, and there's thousands that are down there that's been down there 3 or more times. There's literally hundreds and hundreds that's been down 5 or more times. You are not getting their attention. We hear it. They laugh at us. They go, I can do 6 months standing on my head. And let me tell you how bad the parole system has gotten. And it's gotten that way because the prisons are so full. There's 2,800 inmates backed up. Right now, 46% of the people in my jail are waiting to go to prison. They've been sentenced. 46%. That was as of Monday. Okay? So what happens, and here's a prime example. We've got a man that had already been to prison, multiple felon, convicted several times in the past, was convicted for manslaughter. He killed somebody else. So he gets convicted for manslaughter and a weapons charge because he was a felon and he had a weapon. So he gets a weapons charge conviction. He got sentenced to 14 years in prison. He is coming up for parole a year and a half later. That's the problem, in my opinion. Is what happens is those folks that are repeat offenders, we need to lock up. There's somebody else that comes to mind. And actually, he's recently sued me because he didn't like the treatment he got in the jail. But this guy's been down several times, and I can tell you, if he's not locked up, he is stealing. I don't mean there wouldn't be 2 days go by that he's out that he would not be breaking into someone's home or stealing something. And yet he's been down multiple times.
He keeps getting out.
And years ago, he shot a woman and left her for dead and served prison time for that, okay? So that's the problem. It's the repeat offenders. Now, for these early folks, hey, first time they go down, and by the way, it's not their first offense. That people say, well, we should stop sending people's first felony down to prison. That almost never happens unless it's some sort of violent crime. It's usually their third, fourth, even fifth time they get a felony conviction before they even will think about going to prison. So you've got that many convictions under you, and this is what's happened over the last 3 to 5 years. It is, the prisons are full, the jails are full, and the bad guys, if you will, out there, the people that are out here breaking the law, they know it, and there's no incentive. It comes down to what I call risk reward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, while I certainly absolutely do not condone that we go to do like some countries overseas, but there are countries out there that if you get your first DWI, you lose your license for life.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There are some countries, if you get caught stealing, they cut your hand off. Now, again, I'm not condoning that. But, there's a risk-reward issue there.
Mm-hmm.
There is very little risk anymore.
Wow.
Which brings up, if you will, let me segue into the next thing.
Yeah.
We recently had a series of car break-ins, over 60-some, committed by two young men who was selling some of the stuff, trading some of the stuff they were stealing for drugs. In virtually every single one of those cases, the people left their vehicle unlocked. In town, out in the county, Gassville, in Mountain Home, they left their vehicle locked. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if your vehicle's not locked sitting out in front of this building, Dale, shame on you.
It's locked.
Okay? Shame on you, because the reason is because what you're doing, they're looking for low-hanging fruit, we call it. They're looking for something quick and easy. So if you simply will lock your car, whether it's in your driveway or at your business or wherever, you have now, in most cases, they'll go somewhere else.
What are they looking for in particular? Anything they can grab?
Anything they can grab. And I'll just tell you a few things that we recovered that were stolen out of these vehicles. Checkbooks, cash, prescription pills, CD players, cameras, games, laptops, several laptops, iPads, at least 4 guns we know of, again, left in vehicles unlocked.
Lock your cars, folks.
It's not, that's
easy solution.
That's an easy solution. Don't volunteer to be a victim. Actually, that phrase.
Simple crime prevention.
Yep. Actually, Bob Zadora came up with that.
What's that?
That phrase. Don't volunteer to be a victim.
Good job, Bob.
And that's what you're doing. You're volunteering by leaving your vehicle unlocked. Back a few years ago, we had it there in Walmart, which, of course, is Mountain Home. They had some vehicles that got broken into. They went back and looked at the cameras, and they could see a guy walking down the aisle pulling door handles.
Checking door handles.
All he's doing. In and out in 20 seconds.
Unbelievable.
All they're doing is looking for open or unlocked cars. And it's
simple solution, lock
your car.
We're going to take a quick quick break.
Yep.
Going to take a quick break. Be right back. 7:51. Continuing our discussion with our sheriff.
40 more seconds than we thought.
Yeah. That was a good guess, though. You've done this show a while. You know as well as I do. Anyway, about 4 minutes. Final thoughts. What have we not covered?
Well, you heard my little rant a little bit about the issue with, of course, thefts and prisons and jails and so on and so forth. And I guess, I kind of feel sorry for our neighbors, Marion County, because they're about to have their jail shut down. And I actually went over and attended one of the meetings. Was asked to just stop by and listen in, and I threw in my 2 cents a couple times, because one of the things that I encouraged them not to do, I said, look, if you build this jail, you've got to fund it. You can't expect to live in a bigger house without your costs going up. Yeah. So they're going to have to put some sort of maintenance there. But again, people don't like to pay for it, but we also don't want the alternative, because when you think of the crime, we need to keep the bad guys locked up, because when the crime goes up, there's all kinds of things that happen. Number one, you're not only losing your stuff, but the business owners are losing their stuff. It hurts our economy. There's all kinds of issues of why. And so In Marion County's case, they're going to have to do something. And once somebody said, well, we'll just take them elsewhere. Well, I'm not sure where you're going to take them because my jail's full. In fact, we had them sleeping on the floor this morning. All of our beds are full, and we've got some on the floor. Boone County's full. So I don't know where Marion County's going to take them. That's an issue.
That's an issue. Real quick, I want to ask you about prescription drug drop-off. Is that all year round, or is that certain times of the year?
Well, there's two. Actually, the national folks, federal government cut back on that. I guess because it was working, they decided not to fund it anymore. I'm sorry, that was tacky, but but Arkansas does it statewide twice a year, and that's in April and October. However, we have a permanent drop box there that you can come anytime. You don't even have to get out of your car. It's located behind the sheriff's office on 8th Street, which is right behind the fire department. Okay. Big box. It's labeled. Dude, you can drive up in there and drop off your prescription drug day or night.
How do we protect our identity? Do we need to pull the labels? Go use a Sharpie through them?
It's up to you. You can put a Sharpie through them if you want to. Some people dump them out and put them in plastic bag. We actually don't. We don't want you to just dump the pills loose in there because it just takes us a lot of extra work to get them cleaned up. But you can Sharpie through it. We recycle the bottles, so along with that. But we take them, and we have our own incinerator, a small incinerator we use for part of the time, and then when it gets close to the event time, we'll actually start, we'll put them in our evidence and then take them. For the statewide event, we take them to El Dorado where they're incinerated.
If I'm down to the last minute here, but real quick, if we could get rid of just 20% of the unused prescription drugs in the county, how would that help your drug traffic?
Well, I think we've done better than that. Really? Baxter County, and when you look at for the last several years in the national event and then in the state event, Baxter County, in fact, think about the size of Baxter County compared to the rest of the state. We finished the number 1 and number 2 as far as the most drugs collected 2 years in a row.
Good.
So when you think about that for a county our size, that's pretty incredible. But again, get them out quickly on your don't voluntarily be a victim. We have a lot of prescription drugs being stolen out of homes. You can take that easy. Don't put your prescription drugs in the medicine cabinet. Hide them somewhere where only you know where they're at.
There you go.
And that way if someone does get in your home, because a lot of times that's what they're looking for is prescription drugs, they use your bathroom, they want to use your phone, they whatever, and then drugs are stolen. Don't leave them out on the counter. Don't leave them in the bathroom medicine cabinet. Put them someplace that's hidden where you know where they're at. Again, small steps you can do to help prevent
your own crime prevention, right? In your own home, your own car. Yeah.
So and don't flush them down the toilet.
And don't flush them down the commode.
No, they do not.
They don't need baths on steroids.
Well, they get there. I'm telling you, there is prescription drugs they've found now in the aquatic wildlife. So the water treatment plants don't take care of them. Don't flush them. Don't throw them away. Drop them off at our drug drop box.
We support our sheriff, John Montgomery. Hope you do the same thing. We got a great sheriff. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate
your time. We'll see you next month. That wraps it up. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.